Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Litchfield Capital Improvement Planning Committee meeting, remote meeting for Monday, June 29, 2020 at 6 p.m. The Capital Improvement Committee will conduct a remote meeting pursuant to Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12 related to public meetings. The town office will be closed to the public and no more than 3 people will be physically present. The meeting will be broadcasted live on Litchfield TV and YouTube channels. In addition, the public can call to listen to the meeting or provide public testimony during public comment session. Public testimony can also be submitted to the town office during business hours or sent by email no later than 2 p.m. on Monday, June 29, 2020. Please contact Troy Brown, Town Administrator. For questions or more information, if you attempt to accept the meeting and are unable to do so, please contact Troy Brown, Town Administrator, at tbrown@litchfieldnewhampshire.gov or 603-424-4046, extension 1250. I'm going to forego the Pledge of Allegiance since we're not in the building. And I'll call this meeting to order. So I'm going to start off, as we normally do in these meetings, with public input this evening. Public input that anybody, members of the public who are listening or who are on this call, would like to speak.
So, Mr. Chair, the only 2 people that are here, I believe, are attendees, Donna and Vicky. Otherwise, it's just the members.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, I guess hearing none, I will close public input and we'll go on to the business this evening. First off tonight, I just want the members, if they have an opportunity to take a look at the meeting minutes that were submitted. I believe those are on the email by Troy. And I was wondering if anybody had any questions, concerns, and if there are none, we'd like to entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second. Do I have discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the meeting minutes approval, last meeting, roll call signify by saying aye. Michael Proto, aye.
Stephen Weber, aye.
John Flynn, aye.
Brian Burke, aye.
Pete Stone, aye.
Okay. Any opposed or abstained? The motion is 2, 3, 5, 0, 0. Okay, thank you. First off, the second item of business this evening is library trustees. Are there any members of the library on the call?
Yes.
And could you introduce yourself to the board?
I am Vicki Varick, the library director.
Good evening.
Good evening. Looks like Donna's still muted, but Donna Ferguson is our chair of the Board of Trustees.
Okay. Very good. Well, welcome both of you to the Capital Improvement Committee meeting tonight. We Troy, I usually start off with Troy. He usually provides the introduction, but I think I'm going to obviously forgo that because he's not on. So I'm probably ask you folks to maybe give us a little background on the library and what the situation is in terms of the needs for the library in town and what it is that you're seeking this evening.
Okay. So the library was built in 1924 when Litchfield had a population of 246. So we have grown substantially while the building has not. There's been no additional service space added. The only addition we've had was in 2002, and that was to install a handicap accessible lift. being that the building is on multiple levels. We treat our lawn as a service area in the summer. We have way too many people coming in for the summer reading program to be able to accommodate them here in the children's room. So we did put fencing up a number of years ago so that we didn't need to worry about the kids running into the road and, you know, those fun liability concerns. The building is situated in a space with a high water table. The children's room is in the lower level of the building, the basement, essentially. And we run dehumidifiers all the time. They get emptied every day. We have 3 of them. Part of the space downstairs, the walls, the coating on the walls, I guess we'll say, bubbles up over time and has to be scraped off and it's not plastered. I don't know what they're using. We've got terracotta tiles underneath and some stone. So it has to be fixed. We're looking at our 3rd time to do that now in, I guess, like 20 years. So the site really isn't situated for any type of an addition, given that we are hemmed in by wetlands. Our parking lot holds, I think, 17 cars, but just beyond the parking lot is where the wetlands start. The town does own the property north of us. Most of it, again, is wetlands. The only dry area is the little strip that's along the road. So there really isn't any way to add on. And honestly, I don't know that that would be a good idea anyway. I know when they put the lift in 2002, they had to halt work at one point as they were coming in through the back wall because they were afraid it was all going to fall down. You know, and I know that's their job, so engineers, but it's just really not in a good location anyway. So we are looking for a new building, and the library has been included in the town's master plan to be put over with the other public services for a number of years. One of the things that's very attractive about that is that it's on the walking path. The way we're situated now, the only way you can get here is if you know how to drive a car and your parents are comfortable with you driving on 3A. So we don't get any kind of traffic from kids being able to come in on their own, teens being able to come on their own, which is very limiting. The size of the building is 2,545 square feet. A town of our size, a community of our size, really should have a library of 10,000 square feet. So we're grossly undersized. We do stay quite busy, but there are a lot of people in town that have library cards elsewhere because we're so limited in space. We can't house collections to suit everyone's needs. We don't have any meeting room space. So the library trustees meet on a Monday night when the building's not open to be able to use the upstairs space where patrons normally would be. We have no room for any type of comfortable seating. You're not going to find people in here reading magazines or newspapers or anything like that because nobody wants to sit on a hard wooden seat for too very long. The space doesn't really even accommodate. We have a couple of tables upstairs that technically hold 4 chairs, but the way people use them, it's 1 person per table. We have space for 2 adult computers upstairs, and we have 1 downstairs for children to use. Most libraries obviously have larger computer areas, if not a computer lab, so that classes can be taught to help the members of the community. We don't have that. We don't have a children's programming area. As I said before, we use the outside in the summer when we're the busiest, but it also limits us during the year to really only being able to hold story time We're talking about a group of up to 12 children and a parent, and that's about it. Other than that, we do hold a Polar Express event in December where we kind of pack everybody in as best we can. But it's really not a viable thing to be doing on an ongoing basis. Did I cover everything there? I think I covered pretty much. Do you have any questions on that?
Okay. Does the board have any questions for the library?
I guess one of the other things that we see too is libraries are used differently than they used to be. So they do require more open spaces with perhaps furnishings, some shelving that's movable to accommodate different activities. And one of the things that we see down here in the children's room is a lack of any kind of that space. So most libraries now have kind of activity centers for the younger kids for early literacy. And we have a couple of shelves that we managed to clear off to try and provide some of that. And I did try to find you information on the cost per square foot to build, furnish, and equip. I did send the sheet along of what I was able to gather. And all four of these are expansions and renovations combined. So I don't know exactly how well that fits what you're looking for. On the one hand, if we were to go to the town-owned property, it would fit in well because they probably didn't buy additional property. But then that would not necessarily include any kind of septic work. There was one library in the state that I was not able to get a hold of that had just done a brand new building. But with the pandemic and everything, people are not where they're normally at or feeling like helping necessarily with these kind of questions. So I don't know if the National Regional Planning Board would have any kind of information on a cost per square foot for a public library or not, but this was all I was able to gather.
So in terms of what your needs are as a library, I guess, what are you looking, do you have a plan to what it is or something in the works where you would like to see some sort of a change to how things are done as infrastructure wise, I guess is the question.
Well, we did hire someone to start the process in 2015. In library land, they're called building programs. So Patience Jackson did come in and do the initial study, which I did include with your documents today. She looked at what we have, where we are, where we need to be, and made her recommendations. And it included some square footage estimates for different types of services, how many square feet of shelving there should be, how many square feet meeting space, community space, all those things. The next phase would be to have a consultant back again to really start to solidify those needs, and that would be the document that would go on to an architect to develop a building plans. So, we were just really looking to be able to accommodate the needs of the community. That's what we're here for, to serve the patrons. And it's hard to do that in the space we have with the size of the community that we have.
Vicki, with the
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. With the changes in technology, what type of resources do you find people coming into the library for, with everything pretty much being online?
you would think that they're not coming in for print books, but that would be wrong. They're not coming in for reference books anymore, like the kind that used to be held behind the reference desk and they needed somebody to, find them information. That's not happening anymore with the internet. But people do still want to hold books in their hands. They do still check out books on CD to listen to on their commutes. We could do a robust circulation still of DVDs. I would imagine at some point that may change, but not everybody can afford even an internet connection, let alone streaming, subscriptions to things. So right now what we're seeing is everybody wants a little bit of everything. So they want the access to the ebooks and the audiobooks, but they also want the access to the print books. There are some people that only use the digital downloads, and there are some that will only reprint, but there is that group in between that does both. And I know when e-readers first came out and became popular, there was all the gloom and doom, the books going away and all that stuff. But it only took a couple of years and the numbers started to drop and the print numbers started going back up again because it was novel, I guess. But not everybody likes that type of format. So services definitely change. I mean, it's a fluid situation and it will always be that way. Trying to keep up with it is the problem.
Definitely. And I was just curious based on the amount of square footage needed based on what resources individuals are looking for.
Yeah. And I know Patience did take some of that into consideration when she developed her recommendations. I think she may not have considered the mobility of space to be able to rearrange things and to be able to have the community, I don't know what I'm trying to say, groups being able to come in and hold their little informal meetings. That's not necessarily a meeting room type thing, but just a gathering. But I think she did a fairly good job with that.
Okay, thank you.
Overall. Yeah, sure.
So, Vicky, if I can ask, and
Sure.
maybe I missed it, I may even end up deleting it, but you keep referencing numbers that you forwarded. Who'd you forward those numbers to? I
Well, I
don't see
sent this to Troy, and I believe he sent it out to you this afternoon.
No.
So I got, they were sent to me as well. I was CC'd.
Did anyone else on
He
the
sent it
committee?
to the CIP. He just sent it to the CIP committee.
Yeah, I don't see anything in my mailbox. I have
No.
it up right now.
Oh,
I'm looking at
okay.
it as soon as she said paper.
I don't have anything either.
Okay, well, that's
He just hasn't-
unfortunate.
He just hasn't forwarded them. So it's unfortunate you weren't able to reach out to the one library that just built brand new. Because I'd be really interested to see like what type of style of library they built. As you know, that in all three of our schools, we went from the old format of library and we've gone to learning commons.
Mm-hmm.
What you're referencing as far as the need for open space, meeting space, collaborative space. So I'd be really interested in what library, what town was it in, who built new?
It was Madberry.
Okay. Be interesting to see like what, I'm certain that it's an open concept that they build, I would think anyway.
More than likely, yes. And
Yeah.
I would guess some of these expansions, are sizable, 6,000 square feet.
Yeah.
That would be part of their renovation, their expansion as well.
Okay.
Now, is this going to be on the present library site, or are we finding another location?
We would like it to be over on the town services library site. Town services site. So over by town hall. Originally, I think the master plan kind of showed the library back behind it.
Mhm. And what about in terms of funding sources? can you tell us a little bit about, you know, I mean, obviously, are there grants out there, or there's any sort of funding sources that can be used to help?
Not
to,
that I am aware of. Even with the people that I did talk to, there were a couple that had, done a fundraiser kind of thing to raise a bit of money to help offset costs, but it was like $153,000, I think, from the community. But no, there really aren't grants available.
Does a lot of your funding come from private sources, or what is it different?
No, it is
source?
town
It's
source.
town. Okay.
Yeah, when this library was built, money was donated for the building, and a resident supplied the land.
And what do you see if this were to, say that one day there's a new library in town? What do you see happening to the old facility, the old building?
Well, I would say it could have a number of uses. It could be used for the senior group, since we do have a lift. There's no problem with stairs. I could see the Friends of the Library utilizing some of the lower level space for book sale, to gather things up for book sales. It could house the historical kind of collection of books that we didn't have room for, and shift it down to the Historical Society, but I don't think they've ever taken them out of the boxes. So that could come back.
Steve, did Troy say anything to you? I mean, did he have anything to add? Do you know?
No, not at the time I spoke to him this morning.
Okay, I was just curious. Jay, do you have anything to add?
Just a couple of things, but one, obviously we'll want to reach out to Troy and see, what the space situation is around town hall, whether or not there is a possibility. I just curious, to the comment on costs, I don't have any cost estimates that I'm aware of. We could certainly look. I wonder though if there was any, and maybe I missed it because my internet was coming in and out, but any outreach to Hudson? I know their building is 10 years old, but seems like in this region, at least for libraries, it's relatively new. So I just wonder if there was any communication with them, both on their facility as well as their funding.
I believe their facility is 13,500 square feet. And if I recall correctly, they had a donation from George and Ella Rogers of $3 million. And that took care of just about everything. It didn't quite cover the furnishings and equipment.
Right. I guess that's why memorial always seems to be in the name of a library.
Yeah. Yes.
Thanks.
Anybody have anything else they want to ask? I had a question, just escaped my mind. The facility, suppose, well, let's just, for argument's sake, say that you can't get support for, or that the town does not decide that they don't want to build a new library. Okay, just hypothetically.
Yeah.
What, at that point, what are you looking to do in terms of the old library, and how, I guess, what's the plan? Do you have a plan, or I guess I'm just curious about expansion? Or?
Well, there really isn't anywhere to expand.
Okay.
So if we tried to expand to the south, our Litchfield is there. Obviously, that can be moved, but then that eats up, it's not a tremendous amount of space. It's going to eat up our outdoor surface area, which we would still most likely need to some degree to handle the summer use. So it's not, yeah, it's just not a good situation, unfortunately.
And do we have an idea of the cost? I mean, what the total would be for building a new library? Anything?
The closest thing that I got was from the Wolfboro Public Library, who just did an expansion with an extensive renovation, and that was coming out to roughly $292,000. No, excuse me, $292 per square foot.
Looks like Troy just forwarded those documents.
Oh, he did, okay.
Yeah, it's got some estimates from some of the other towns, size and square foot cost and overall cost.
And also just thinking outside the box, we also have a new school proposed. Is there a way of putting an extension onto a new school that could also house the library? That way the infrastructure is already going to be there. Septic would be there, electrical would be there. So I guess would the net sum be less money to the taxpayers to try to do a collaboration type building?
That is certainly possible. I know within our community, it's not something that's really recommended, and it's not done very often because we do have such different needs. There's a lot more security type things with the school, where the library has, people coming and going all the time, not necessarily even people from town, people stopping in to use the wireless and to do other things. So it is something that could be looked into, and we would just have to really dial down on what the pros and cons are.
Anybody have anything else? Just looking at the stuff that Troy sent.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing at this point too. It's kind of
All right.
If I can just suggest, maybe we just move on rather than trying to digest information we just received and don't have time to look at.
Yeah, I think, well, yeah, I think we'll do
He
that.
just sent it like a few minutes ago, so.
What's that? What was that?
I said it was just sent a few moments ago, so I mean, rather than trying to like ponder over it now.
Right. I agree. Okay. I agree. All right, so it looks like we have some information.
I have a question.
Yes.
Vicky, this is Sean. I'm a citizens rep on the committee.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to get a donation or a gift or a mass amount of material, books, DVD, if this windfall and you got a nice donation, can you accept it as far as space goes?
No. I mean, we're in a position right now for every book we buy, we're deleting a book. For every item, it's 1 for 1 because everything is full.
That's
We're for the most part, I mean, we're not taking out things that are still popular. Things come and go, but there isn't space for adding a bunch of extra stuff.
all right. That's too bad. Thanks.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I'm going to just really quickly, I know this is kind of going out of order, but I think I want to do it separately for each issue. Is there any members of the public that are listening in tonight that have any questions for the library? John, you can tell me if there's nobody on.
The state members are still on. There's no members of the public on.
Okay. I just figured I'd throw it out there before we move on to the next topic. All right, we're going to close. There's nobody on. Okay. All right, well, if nobody else has any questions, I know I did get an email from Andrew Cutter, and I think some of us got an email, others got email as well. He was asking if someone could take notes and post the highlights on the Facebook page. Otherwise, I'll listen to the recorded meeting and post later in the week. Please let me know what is decided. Okay. So if there's no other questions for the library trustees, I want to thank them for coming to us this evening and providing us this information. I think we need to take an opportunity to digest it a little bit more and go from there. So I would thank you for coming in.
You bet. Let us know if you have questions.
We shall.
Thank you.
We know what time it is.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Okay, the next item of business is the Recreation Commission. Is there a representative from the Recreation Commission on the call?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see one.
Okay, so there's nobody from Rec?
Now, Michael, I know that Andy Collins wanted to meet, but he didn't realize that we were starting at 6 p.m. He thought it was 7:30. So I know he did reach out to a couple other members, and I don't think anybody was able to join.
Okay, so I guess what we can do is, forego them for tonight and just, have them at another meeting, I assume. And maybe, just let them know that it's at 6 o'clock. They want to join in. Under other business, I just wanted to read Andy's email because I know we talked about the police station last time and the fire department and the Conservation Commission. This was sent today, June 29th, at 2:06 p.m. I already read the first part. So under other business, I believe we spoke about beginning to think through the planning for current facility use, such as what will become of the current police station, GMS, etc. If this is in scope for tonight, I'd like the committee to consider the following. I have been giving a lot of thought into Chief Sergeant's presentation to our committee, and I understand there were 3 key areas of concern. 1, safety, 2, space, 3, storage. With this in mind, and considering the 6 proposal that was presented to Phase 2 addition of a new station adjoining the fire station, to me, it still seems quite expensive. I am having a difficult time justifying the need for a new facility when we have a current facility that is already outfitted and they're asking for more space, largely for offices, meeting rooms, and storage. I'd like the committee to consider repurposing the current town hall administrative offices and using this area to address the needs of the police department. I suspect this will significantly reduce cost over building and outfitting new and address all 3 key areas as presented. We could even consider a Sallyport addition to the current facility if required. Regarding where to locate the town hall administrative office, we could consider building a similar sized building to the current office space, 3,000 square feet, or can even consider a modular building to meet this need. I think this is a fair balance between cost savings to the town and addressing key items as presented by the chief. Best, Andrew Cutter. So I just wanted to read that into the record because I know Andrew isn't on the call this evening.
Mike, can you share that with the committee?
Absolutely. This was actually, yes, I will send this to the committee.
Thank you.
Well, it says to CIP.
Yeah,
I think you sent it to everybody.
You guys, you didn't get it. Okay, yeah, I'll submit it. I'll share it.
So I don't know where the stuff the CIP is that the people are sending, but it's not going to the CIP.
Yeah, I got that this morning, this afternoon.
I got it too.
You did? And I must have missed it. What time was it sent?
2:06.
5 after 2.
Yep.
6 after 2.
I didn't get it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Guess we'll forward that.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Do that right now, actually. Does anybody have anything that they want to discuss tonight under other business? I know I read Andrew's email, but I wanted to, I know we had a discussion last time about the fire apparatuses and the police station. And I wanted to know what people's thoughts were.
I actually got a couple of just quick things. So the first is, it's pretty interesting, thought process as far as utilizing the rest of town hall for the police department. And then you say, where do you put town hall? And same thing with the library. That if we get a new elementary school, there's gonna be a big building available right down the street with a lot of rooms. Just food for thought. But my question is, and Steve, you can probably answer this, because I keep looking at the fire department and envisioning the police department attached to it. But it looks like the building, again, without seeing an aerial view and knowing what footage it is, it looks like it'd be going all the way to like the end of the parking lot. So I'm just curious how fire apparatus is going to get around that, number one. Two, I don't know what's behind that white fence, but that's what it looks like it's going to connect to, right around where that white fence is. So what's behind that white fence?
There's a couple white fences. One of them, I believe, hides the transformer that feeds power to the building. And
Is that in the back? Is that in the back of the building?
I don't know if that's in the back of the front. And the other one,
the front's a generator.
okay, the front, and then there's one, I think, protection for a propane tank.
Okay.
But it's something that can easily be moved, and it looks like, I don't think it will go all the way to the back of the parking lot. It will go back far enough, and there's still enough room that they could have an entrance there, so the fire apparatus could go around and pull back through the base.
Okay. Will they have to move the, like, drive around? Because the size of the building, just in looking in the picture, looks like it's going to go out, like almost beyond where the turnaround is right now for them to get in.
I think they're going to be okay with the turnaround. It may have to go a little bit further, but they're still going to be able to get in.
Okay. And so whatever's behind that fence is easy enough to move and relocate?
Everyone's going to move back there.
All right. I just didn't know what was back there. So, all right.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. One of them hides a transformer, one's a generator. I think the other one was a propane tank.
Okay. All right.
And Brian, I did email that email from Andrew to you just now, so it may be in your box.
I think it's an interesting concept that Andrew came up with. He broached it to me earlier in the week, and I was like, that's a good thought process we could put around that.
I agree. Can somebody clarify for me? He says current town hall administrative offices. Now, is that building only town hall admin offices? Like, there's nothing else? He's saying the whole building would be PD.
Yeah, so if you walk into the main entry right now, to the right-hand side is PD, and to the left-hand side is town clerk, building, just town administrative offices.
Okay.
So he's talking about taking over that whole entire building just to be the PD, put an extension for a Sally Port if needed, and then move the town offices with the thought process that a office building would be less money to put up than a police station.
All right, thanks.
And Steve, would that be behind where the town hall is now? Would it be the land behind? Is that where the town hall would be? Or
I'm not sure where we could put it. I think we own a big parcel back there.
yeah.
I think we go back to the master plan, Mike, that we were doing on the planning board. I believe we own a bunch of property to the right-hand side of the police station and further back from the fire department. I think that parcel stretches back pretty far. At one point, we talked about, putting a bandstand back there and having more open space, when we were thinking of different ideas of what the master plan could look like for the town, when we were brainstorming that. So I remember there was a lot of land back there.
Yeah. Well, I certainly think the issue, the big issue here is the cost factor. I know that the chief, talked about, well, he's going to take a $9 million building and then reduce it to $6 million if it were to be built connected to the fire station. Do we have any pricing on what it would take to renovate the town hall, make it fully the police station? Is there any numbers out there? Or?
Oh, I don't know. We'd have to go off and see if, a building has ever been renovated and turned into that. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the cost per square foot would be. And I also, town hall is probably what, 3,500 square feet? And what did Chief say that he presently has? About the same on that side of the building?
It was somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, it was.
So, the two together doesn't get him all the way to the size he thought he needed, but to get him close enough that it's something that would, suffice the town for the next 15 years.
And what about, the other, I don't know if this would work, but what about if you have the town hall, you have the police station as it is now, is there any way to expand the police station and add like an addition or something? Would that be a possibility? I'm just throwing it out there. I don't. In terms of, creating more space. I don't know if there's room to do that. But.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'd have to actually pull the plot plan of the site there and see how much space we have. Back in my notes, Chief Sergeant said that it was about 3,000 square feet is what he has right now.
And I guess the other issue would be to thinking about this. I guess I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but if say for example, if the police station were to be built connected to the fire station, what are we looking to put the SAU in that space if it were possible? It's just another, I'm just coming up with different scenarios, but just throwing them out there. But would we want to see the SAU building as offices go in there? What would we like to see go in there? I guess is to the police station space, or do you want to extend the town offices? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, I'm not overly sure, what that space would house. The SAU does make good sense, but at that point, do we need the extra space, the other wing back at Campbell High School? Brian may know a little bit more about the, the population coming in and so forth.
Well, the high school is going to start showing a slight decline as far as in enrollment. The ideal thing is to get the SAU out of the high school and into a separate building. And as far as utilizing the existing fire department, police department, it's attractive. I think at the same time, you have to take a look at how much money would have to go into it to retrofit. I know a lot of it's cosmetic because you're not changing the outside wall, so it's what's going to cost to build some walls, tear some walls down, and just reconfigure. Because I think it's ample enough space to do so. So and I think part of it depends too is we get a new elementary school. What do we need? Where our needs are. So, but having walked through the police department in the past, it's attractive as far as to place the SAU there right next to the town offices.
I agree. In my personal opinion about GMS is take a bulldozer to it. For all the reasons, basically the school district has come forth and said we need a new elementary school. The same reasons why I don't think we'd want to go and put another one of our facilities in there. High water table, mold, mildew, and so forth. And taking a building down while you're already doing site work, it really doesn't add that much more to the cost of the construction.
Yep.
I think we saved the old section of it just because it's part of the historical landmark and see what we can do to reuse that building for another facility. But I think if if it passes for GMS to have a new school, I think we just bulldoze the old one.
And what were we gonna use if we say we did bulldoze it, what would become, I mean, what would we use the property would it be used for anything?
Well, I'm certain if you talk to the school district, they may sell to you real cheap for a library.
That's what I was just thinking. You know how many square feet that is, Brian? That building?
What's that?
You know how many square feet the old section is?
The old section? The front section's small. The 30s building you're talking about?
Yeah, 30, the part that's on the historical,
Yeah, that's small. I mean, it was like 4 classrooms, I think, is what it was.
there's 2 floors, right?
Yeah.
But I was just curious what the square footage was. I mean, is it more square footage than the library has right now? And would it accommodate their needs?
I don't think it was big enough from what Vicky was just saying, what she wanted for square footage, and not for the type of libraries they would be building right now. The learning commons are more open space. It's similar to like Hudson. Hudson's a little bit still. They were like before. I think learning commons really started to explode, but it really what you're looking for is meeting areas, a lot of open space, and as she said, everything's mobile. Shelves are mobile, chairs, tables, just everything, because you reconfigure on a regular basis.
Yeah, I've never been in that building, so I didn't know if it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be big enough.
I didn't know if you could make both floors just all wide open space. Then we still have to handle the ADA portion of it and get a lift in because of the second floor. So it would be back at that point of putting a lift in it.
I mean, when we had our study done, it basically would have been cheaper to tear it down than to try to do anything to it.
Okay.
Jay, did you have anything you wanted to add to the conversation?
I mean, just in listening to the range of alternatives, just one thing to throw out there, whether it's the old part of Griffin Memorial School or if a new library is built, the old part of the library. Certainly, this wouldn't be true for the existing police station, but in some cases, when we look at what the alternative uses are, they're not necessarily a municipal use or a public use. There might be some cases where the best use is really selling a property for private use or private redevelopment. Just something to think about.
And Jay, several years back when GMS was on the ballot, they had a potential buyer at that time. It was for a nursing home of some sort.
Right. So just something we can think about as we go forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
And something to consider when we're talking about, like Jay just said, maybe there's other uses, maybe private use, maybe someone want to purchase it. We're sitting on a piece of property right now that we don't know what to do with. And it kind of like ties in. You want to buy fire trucks? How about selling an old fire department? Food for thought. Yeah. I'm not certain what the property's worth and the building's worth. I don't think it's a lot, but maybe money's can go towards a new fire truck.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have anything else they want to share?
Just trying to corral all the options in my head here.
Yeah.
Seems like everybody wants new buildings. And the school's the most expensive one.
I think too, it's important to keep in mind that having the new buildings is nice, but obviously it's going to be the will.
They always are.
Town that's going to make that decision in the end. So, I think having contingency plans is always a good thing too, and, working to try to, just in case things don't fall through as, people would like. So.
Yeah, I'm just looking at aerials just to kind of get an idea of the building sizes and stuff too. Because Brian's comment about that backside of the fire department had me kind of curious. Because they did draw it in there, and it looks like that back space is a pad, but to his point, the way that building plan looks like it's going to be longer than that space that's there. I mean, that thing's supposed to be what, 9,000 square feet?
Mhm.
The current police department and town hall is supposed to be about, 6,000, 7,000. It's going to be close. Looking at the aerial view of the fire department in that other building. And a little bit of Tetris. It's going to be close.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to keep in mind too, I mean, in terms of costs and everything, there's a whole bunch of variables that go into this. And, things to consider. I mean, what would the board like to do tonight? Do you want to continue the discussion? Do you want to? I'm not sure. I mean, I wish Troy was here. I would.
Because I believe the chief said he was thinking for what 10-5 in the building.
Yeah, I believe it was 10.
I mean, can we consolidate some of these requests into a single thing and get a discount from the builder? I mean, there's got to be a way to kind of, I think we've looked at them all individually. I guess it kind of makes sense to try to see what could go together, kind of see if we can get a bundled deal or something along those lines.
I just think from a cost impact, we're gonna have to spread these out over a whole bunch of years, and be paying off some bonds before we start another bond, because the last thing we can have is taxes to keep increasing at the rate that they are right now.
Right. No, totally agree. I'm just, I wasn't thinking about the big ones all at once, more the smaller stuff.
Yeah. Did anybody have anything? I know we were talking about the police department. Anything about as to we talked a little about the fire department, but conservation. I don't know. Did Joan provide? I don't remember. Joan said she was going to provide us with a list of conservation lands. I don't know if she did that, because I don't see that.
I don't remember the list come through yet.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we have to wait on that. Okay. Okay. So I guess
Yeah.
I think the issue, is going to be, how do we want to play it out in terms of, because, I'm looking at this and it seems as though a lot of these new buildings are going to be in sort of this, it's almost like we're creating for the most part, other than the school piece, but maybe for the most part, it's almost like you're going to have like a town center that's a little bit more elaborate in terms of if you're going to build a new library, if you're going to build a new town hall, or have a new police station. And then,
Not too many of them are small though.
Yeah, they're big buildings.
Yeah.
This is Jay jumping in, but I think,
Yeah.
getting a sense of what that site plan looks like of the town hall site, I think is going to be really pretty critical.
Right.
Because there's at least two significant building proposals that we've heard tonight, for that site. And I just wonder how much can the site accommodate?
That's true.
I agree. It's a critical piece before we can really put.
I didn't see anything.
I think the building's going to fit. I think it's more of becomes a parking problem.
Right, because
You start stuffing
inquired
buildings
as far as
out there.
properties they were looking at, I also asked how many acreage they own at this time.
Right. And septic.
Septic's big, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's these things are, they're great, but at the same time, I guess we have to look at sort of, what's the best fit for Litchfield in terms of, constructing these buildings or moving them or shifting things around. And I think that it's important because I think this is something that the voters are going to want. They're going to be asking questions, and I think these are things that they're going to be asking in terms of, and how do you sell that? I think that's another big thing too. How are we going to sell this to the town in terms of the voting people, the voters, in terms of what's the best, the best alternative for building.
So on that note, I mean, we're talking about, selling to the voters. How about maybe put out a survey and see what the feedback looks like?
Actually, I was going to raise that point a bit later, but I'm drafting a survey now because we're also looking at doing the master plan community facilities section. So I started with just kind of a basic outline of what's people's perception of the adequacy of a whole host of existing facilities. So that's something I'm working on now. I'm happy to send out a draft, but also if there's any particular questions that anybody thinks would be valuable to include, email them to me so I can put them in a draft. Because I think this is a really timely time to do a survey. Timely time.
I think it might help us kind of,
I think it will
pull to some kind of point on this.
Yeah.
I
forward.
spoke about somewhere within this process to have a public meeting and get the community's input, on the different improvements that we're putting forward. Because we may be sitting here talking about all of them, and maybe one that the community comes has no wind behind it, no one has the desire, and it would drop off the plan.
Right.
In terms of where we are in terms of the
Right.
scheduling, I mean, for all of this, I mean, what are we looking to do in the next, I don't know, a couple months or what? What are we? I guess what's our goal going to be as a board? And I don't know, Jay, I mean, you have a little bit more experience with the capital improvement than I do, but obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think the goal
When
really
we-
was, I think we had a goal of wrapping this up by the end of the summer because,
Yeah.
we wanted to wrap it up before we're really into budget season.
Right. My understanding. So, I don't know if for next time, maybe we could look at, maybe if you have a survey that you're doing for the committee, we could review that
Absolutely.
and see if there's anything we would like to add or delete or whatever, and then just have it sent out to the town.
Yes.
Are we done seeing, do we have all our submissions from all different departments? Have we,
I believe we have solid waste left. We have rec left.
Okay.
Right.
because I'm trying to do my own outline and with the numbers and the little projects so I can see it all together and build a better picture for myself. And I just didn't know how much more we have left to add that we can, if we're going to have that survey or what, if we're going to have all the information we need.
Right. I think for the departments, it's Parks and Rec is key and solid waste. I think those are the only ones
I think those are the last two.
And-
What does the output look like once you get all these surveys? What do you bring back to us from a planning standpoint?
In terms of doing a public survey?
No, just that we've done all these and you're putting them into a master template. What does the output of that look like? Is it the same as the plan that we shared early on that had the probably 11 by 17, just kind of had all the gating items and the stages they were in?
Yes. So at this point, it's going to be, here are the projects, here are the costs, and here's the years that they've been requested in. Here's how they fall. Obviously, that's what it looks like as requested. And the critical part is going to be what does the committee recommend going forward? And that could be some of the projects are not recommended at all, or that the cost goes up or down and the timing changes, even the funding mechanism changes. So that's going to be that's really good. Obviously, that's going to be the most challenging part of this whole process, is really looking at that whole spreadsheet and figuring out where we
Steve,
want to go.
I agree with that. I mean, I think, because we talked about that, I think at our first meeting, we talked about that. Sorry.
Right. So we're very close to that point.
Okay. So I guess, I mean, I don't know if we want to reach out to Troy. I mean, we talked a little bit tonight with the library trustees, and didn't seem like they had an idea about.
Well,
I mean,
so
they had
I started to say, we talked about this at our first meeting.
Yeah. And I think, I guess my issue would be, trying to get pinned down maybe something about the cost of what putting a new building for a library would be. We can get a little bit more information on that.
They don't have a whole lot of resources. It's, a group of people that just came together that are the friends of the library and the trustees that try to run it. So, I understand why they couldn't, come back in with exact construction costs and so forth. They just don't have the amount of people to do it. It's the same, it's almost the same struggle that the rec commission has right now, because it's all volunteer based.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Right.
So I guess the next question would be, I mean, what would be the priority? Are we, maybe we need to focus in on what's, I'm saying the library isn't important, but it certainly is. But in terms of like the police station and the fire department, do we want to narrow our focus here? I mean, those are two big facilities, infrastructure in town that, emergency, safety. Do we want to concentrate on that as well as
You
the
don't
school?
have rec.
Right.
We don't have rec.
So, I mean, that's, and we'd have to look at those as well. So, I mean, we'd have to, review those first and then make a decision what we want to do. So I don't know if next time are they going to be, do you think they'll be available, Steve, next time?
I hope so.
Brett
We keep asking. I think we have to give them some time and let them know they weren't able to make it tonight, that we need them ready for next time. I think we need solid ready for next time. We have to get through these final couple just so we can have all our information so we can continue on with the process.
I agree. Okay. Yeah, and I think, maybe that'll give us a little bit more of a better sense of what we want to do and where we want to narrow our focus, because I think we're going to have to do that. I think these are major, projects. There's a lot of money involved, and I think we've got to kind of, okay, yes, I can understand, library needs this, police department, needs this, but, maybe I'm just throwing that out, but, the police department may need more attention than the library at this time, but, so I think that maybe we can work on that for next time. Okay. At this point, I'm going to just open it up again to public comment, public input. I don't know if there's John, is there anybody else out there from the public that wants to comment?
No, sir.
Okay. Very good. So I guess there are no members of the public out there. I will close public input. Is there any other business tonight that we want to talk about? Anybody have anything? When do we want to, when are we looking to meet again? Maybe that's another question. Do you want to do?
So Mike, I just have, I just have
Yeah, go
something
ahead.
quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
He's having network problems.
That's all right.
Yeah, there's big delay. So the next two Monday nights that I know, because we've been trying to keep them to Mondays, are July 6th and July 20th. Because the Board of Selectmen are meeting on the 13th and the 27th.
Do we want to shoot for July 20th? Would that work for everybody?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Works for me. So if it works for everybody else.
And do we think we can nail down recreation and solid waste? I mean, to Sean's point, until we have all these numbers correlated, it's going to be hard to prioritize and start, picking off what we want to focus on. We don't know the scope of the requests.
I'll start working on both of those to make sure that they're ready on the 20th.
Cool.
Yeah, so I think that'll be our focus for the next meeting. And I think we'll have a discussion with Jay about the survey. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
If anybody has anything
Yep.
else.
And I'll
Brian-
get something out to everybody beforehand.
Go ahead. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Jay. Sorry. Brian, and are you still on the call? I know you said you had something you wanted to add. I didn't hear anything. Okay. All right. So, I mean, I don't have anything else for this evening. Steve, do you have anything else that you want to add, or?
I don't have anything at this time. I'll try to get a copy of the property map for town property there sent out to everybody. I'll work with Troy to see if he can get that scanned in and sent out.
Be great.
Good. Okay. Cool. All right. So
I am.
our next.
Yeah, actually two things. One, I found
Okay.
Andrew's email. It went to spam, so I'll fix that. But the other thing I have it, and it's I guess directed to Jay just for clarification. I keep getting muted.
I'm sorry, I can't hear the question.
Brian, are you there?
Looks like he's having connection problems.
Yeah.
There he goes. Looks like he's back.
Brian?
Brian, if you can hear me, just shoot me an email.
Okay. Yeah, we're all being held in suspense. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Well, if he comes back on, I guess. Hear him. So I guess, yeah, we'll have him shoot you an email, Jay, if he has any questions, and maybe
Right.
he can forward that information to us. So the next meeting is going to be July 20th. And it'll be at 6 o'clock. And we'll look at recreation and solid waste survey and other business?
I'm here.
Okay,
Yeah,
hi. We're sorry.
keep
Lost you.
coming and going.
Did you have a question for Jay?
Yes,
Okay, go ahead.
I'm here.
Okay.
All right, I will.
Okay. Can you hear me, Brian?
I think those are his comments from earlier finally coming through.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we're not having select this evening. Okay. Okay. So, like I said, that'll be our next meeting. Is there anything else that anybody has that they want to discuss this evening?
I will. Yes.
I know Brian, unfortunately. But, okay. So if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second a motion to adjourn.
Okay. A motion and a second. Do we have discussion? All right, all those in favor, roll call, signify by saying aye. Aye. Michael Proto, aye.
Stephen Weber, aye.
Sean Flynn, aye.
Pete Stone, aye.
Brian with the big thumbs up.
Okay, great. All right, motion is going to pass.
Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Can you hear me?
So motion would pass 1, 2, 3, 5-0-0. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. I'm sorry we had that connection issue at the end there. I guess if Brian has any questions, just let him email Jay and reach out to myself or Troy or whatever. Oh, and another question, I should have asked him this. Maybe Steve, if I didn't know, I know Troy sent out photographs of the police station. I didn't know if the chief is still interested in doing a site walk for the police department. And also, I think Brian was going to inquire from the school if they were willing to allow us to do a tour of Griffin Memorial. So,
Yeah, I know
if you
he sent the video recording of when the budget committee and the selectmen went through it. And I will reach out to Chief Sergeant and to Troy and find out if we can get a date on the calendar.
Okay, great. And I guess if you do hear from, I guess I can send an email to Brian and find out from the school myself. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being on the call. Have a great evening, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great
Thanks
Fourth.
all. Have a good night.
Have happy
Yep.
Fourth. Good
Happy
night.
Fourth.
Yes. Stay safe.